Hey, what's going on, guys? So this update for 007 First Light is one of those patches that does not try to reinvent anything, but it does clean up a bunch of the stuff that can quietly get in the way of actually enjoying the game. The first thing that stands out here is the GPU launch fix. The team says they addressed an issue where the game could pick the integrated GPU instead of the dedicated one on machines that have both. That is one of those problems that sounds technical, but in practice, it can be a huge headache for players, especially on laptops or systems with hybrid graphics. You boot the game up expecting everything to run normally, and instead it chooses the weaker graphics chip, which can lead to poor performance or the game not launching at all. So getting that sorted is a pretty important quality of fix, even if is not the kind of thing that looks exciting on a feature list. Then there is the HDR issue, and this one is a good example of a bug that would probably annoy people way more than it should. The patch notes say the game was resetting player-defined HDR settings back to default every time the game restarted. That means if you had spent time tuning the image to look right on your display, the game would just undo it the next time you load it in. Anyone who has messed around with display settings knows how irritating that can be, because you are not just fixing it once, you are fixing it over and over again. So this should make the whole visual setup feel a lot less annoying for players who use HDR. The update also spends some time on performance and stability, and that is probably the part most people are going to care about after the launch fix. The developers mentioned GPU-related improvements aimed at lowering the chance of out-of-memory crashes. That is a big one, because those crashes can be brutal. You are in the middle of playing, everything seems fine, and then suddenly the game just falls apart because the GPU ran out of memory. It is the kind of problem that can make a game feel unstable even if everything else is working well. So any patch that chips away at that risk is a win, especially for players on systems that might be pushing the limits a bit. There is also a mission-specific crash fix tied to the For England mission. According to the notes, the game could crash after using the missile pen gadget on explosive environmental objects, particularly around the last stand checkpoint. That is the sort of bug that sounds oddly specific until you realize how often game-breaking issues end up being tied to one exact sequence of actions. And if you have ever had a mission crash right near a checkpoint, you know how frustrating that can be. You make progress, something explodes, the game falls over, and suddenly you are replaying a chunk of the mission for no good reason. So this is the kind of fix that may not affect everyone, but for the people who ran into it, it probably felt like a major problem. What I like about this update is that it feels focused. It is not trying to distract anyone with some huge list of changes that look impressive but do not really solve much. It is aimed at the stuff that gets in the way of smooth play. Launch issues, settings resets, crash prevention, mission stability. That kind of patch may not get people jumping out of their seats and tests, but it absolutely helps build confidence that the game is being maintained properly. The size of the update also gives you a sense that this is more of a maintenance pass than anything else. It is available across multiple platforms, including Steam, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Microsoft PC, and Epic Games Store, and the download sizes vary depending on the platform. That tells you the update is being pushed pretty broadly, which makes sense given that the fixes are tied to core stability and compatibility, rather than one niche platform issue. So overall, this is the kind of patch that players usually appreciate more the longer they sit with the game. It is not about adding a bunch of new content or changing the direction of the experience. It is about making the game behave better, launch more reliably, and avoid those frustrating crashes and reset settings that can wear people down. And and for a game like this, that kind of cleanup goes a long way because once the technical stuff starts getting out of the way, people can actually focus on playing instead of troubleshooting.